We will now talk about networking support that is available in Android. Before we start using networking support, we need to avail the permission from the Android platform. So to do that, we need to specify the permission requests in the manifest file of our application. Two permissions in particular that is of interest to us right now is to ask for permission to access the internet. This is obviously required by any application that is going to access the internet. Second point, whenever you are using the internet, you may want to check to make sure that your device is connected to the internet before you let the user access the other parts of your application. Now, if your application strongly depends upon connection to the internet, it is important to check and make sure that the device is connected to the internet. Now, to do that, we need to be able to check the current state of our network connection. And for that reason, we need to ask for permission to be able to access the current network state. So that is specified by the second permission that is listed in this list here. Android provides a manager called as the connectivity manager. The job of the connectivity manager is to keep track of the network connectivity state, and also in particular for our app, the connectivity manager allows us to get access to the current network connectivity and query to ensure that our device is connected to the internet. And the way we get access to the connectivity manager is by asking for the reference to the connectivity manager by calling the get system service Android's method. The connectivity manager returns a reference to an object, and we can then query it by calling different methods that are supported by this connectivity manager, including get network info, get active network info, and so on. Once you get access to the network info object from the connectivity manager, then we can query the network info object by using the methods that are supported in there called as isAvailable, isConnected or connecting, and so on. So these methods return the status information about the connectivity of our device. So here is an example of how you would check to see whether your device is online or not. So we would first get access to the connectivity manager, then we get access to the network info object by using the connectivity manager, and then after we get access to the network info object, then we can ask the question network info is connected. If you call this method called the isConnected method, it will return a true value if the device is connected. Otherwise, it will return a false value. So using that, we can decide whether our device is currently online or not. So if our device is currently not online, then maybe we can prompt the user to turn on the network connection so that he or she can get access to certain parts of our app that depend upon network connectivity. Now that we can verify that the device is connected to the network, the next point would be how to connect to a server, how to establish connection to a server. This is where, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to make use of the HTTP protocol. HTTP is an application layer protocol that allows you to exchange information with a server at the application layer. Now, Android itself has 2 or 3 varieties of HTTP support built in. The most commonly used one is called as HTTP URL connection client. So the HTTP URL connection client allows you to establish a connection to a server using the HTTP protocol and then exchange data with the server. Android also has the Apache HTTP components library that is already built into the Android framework. So that allows you to get access to the HTTP client component and so on. but preferably Android developers advocate to you to use the HTTP URL connection client for this purpose. Now, once you use the HTTP URL connection client, you can then layer SOAP or XML RPC on top of this library, or you can design to use the REST style web service access using the HTTP URL connection. These are beyond the scope of this course, so I will primarily concentrate on how you establish an HTTP connection and be able to request for data from a server. Now, in the exercise that you just completed, you saw me using HTTP URL connection to establish a connection to the server. So you would call this HTTP URL connection by specifying the URL of the server, and then establish the connection by calling URL open connection. And then you set up certain parameters for this, and then you will set up the request property. So we are asking for the return value to be of the JSON type, and then you declare to the server that you're going to accept any incoming reply from the server that is in JSON format. So these are specified by the request headers that you see there. And then when you need to fetch data from the server, you're going to use the GET request. So that is specified by using the set request method for the URL connection that we just established. Now, once you establish the connection, then you would simply call URL connection get response code, and that will return the response from the server. Now that we have already set up the query as per the steps in the previous slide, so we can go ahead and then request for the data to be downloaded. Once the data is downloaded, it is available in the body of the response message that comes in from the server. We get access to the response messages body by calling URL connection get input stream. Now this supplies you an input stream which needs to be processed by you to extract the data from the body. So we assign and open a buffered input stream corresponding to this URL connection input stream. And then from the input stream, we are going to use a method called convert input stream to string, which is a method that we have written in the code, and supply the input stream as a parameter. This convert input stream to string method that we implemented in the previous exercise includes the code that will read in from the input stream line by line and then convert it into a string. Now, once that string is obtained, this is the JSON string that we are looking for. And this string will then be parsed in order to extract the information from the JSON strings. So that's the procedure, the broad procedure that we use for being able to connect to a server and then download data from a server using the GET operation. Now, you can similarly do other operations like the put, post, and so on. So if you're familiar with how HTTP operations are conducted, you can definitely make use of a similar approach for doing other operations. So with that, we complete a quick discussion on networking, and we will move on to the final assignment of this course, where we use the Picasso library to download the images asynchronously and then load them into the list view to replace the avatars of the users that are listed there.